Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. We have a lot of topics to go through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go first, tell you what the main topic about is, and then I'm going to tell you about the subtopics that we will do after playing our immensely wonderful interview on gentrification with two of Atlanta's best. So let's go ahead and get started immediately with the program because I don't want to go over again. So what I'll do is let's get busy. What is the program about today? Well, we have a lot to talk about. And anytime you see me kind of dilly-dallying like this, it's like, okay, I am trying to find the heads up to the program, and I'm about to try to go ahead and cue other things. But anyhow, now that we're cued, we are going to get busy as far as the program is concerned. And here we go. Title of the show today is Gentrification is Destroying Many Communities. Who gets hurt? Who gets hurt? Is it worth it? That is the main topic of the show today. Subtitle: Gentrification is full speed ahead throughout the country. The question as property value inflates, who wins? Who loses? Two Atlanta area activists who are actively in the crosshairs of gentrification joins Politics Done Right. Little typo got to fix. The effects are not what one may believe looking in from the outside. The place looks much better, some say, but can those who live there partake of the revitalization or said changes, the ones that best address the totality of all in the communities affected? I think not. Politics Done Right's regular contributor, Robby Caban, somebody that I call the real estate activist, continues her mission not only to expose corruption, but to help do something about it. You know, I love people who are out there in the field, but I like folks that not only talk about what's wrong, but actually say or give a pathway to solve these problems. Caban is one of those. If you have to do something, whether it is through the media, whether it is being on the ground, you have to do something to make a change. And then, of course, our second, our companion guest is first-time guest Kamau Franklin. Is impressive. When I tell you this man is impressive, I mean he's impressive. He is the founder and board president of Community Movement Builders, Inc., and has been a dedicated community organizer for over 20 years, first in New York City and now based in the South. For 18 years, he was a leading member of a national grassroots organization dedicated to the ideas of self-determination and the teachings of Malcolm X. He has worked on various issues, including youth organization or youth organizing and development, police misconduct, and creating sustainable urban communities. So what I want to ask you all, folks, is to stay and listen to the entire show. I mean, we have a whole lot to cover. And man, I want you guys here with me doing this. It is very important. We're going to start that show right now. We're going to start that interview right now. But before we do the interview, I have to play a little sort of a promo that I just came up with that I hope you guys take advantage of. So here's a little promo I did on Politics Done Right, and then we'll jump right into the show. So here comes the promo. patrons and prospective patrons, thank you for your support of independent media. Why is it crucial? We are not dependent on the whims of those who advertise on the platforms we use to bring you news, truths, opinions, and empowerment. We ensure that all of those who must have a voice, whose voices have been silenced or ignored, are heard. Those who have messages and narratives to better us all have a place and an outlet to do so. With all the misinformation out there, our platforms give you power. You are integrated into a network where no one has a monopoly of ideas. Remember, Politics Done Right is yours, and you can be a part on the scene or behind the scenes. Thank you for supporting Politics Done Right and our corresponding websites, newsletters, and outlets. Thank you. Okay, folks, like I said, you can always reach that at, you can always get to, first of all, our pages, our websites, newsletters. You can all have access to that via politicsdoneright.com. Again, that name is politicsdoneright.com. That is how you can find us. Not a problem. And by the way, you can also go to egbertowillies.com to see all the articles that we write, all the Parisian articles about things that are occurring and what you need to know. But anyhow, without further ado, let's get busy with gentrification. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. We have a doozy of a story today. We know what's going on right now in America is the big G word. That G word is gentrification, but it comes with a whole lot of appendages as well. I have two of the best out of Atlanta right now that will be discussing gentrification, but we're going to go a little bit deeper than gentrification because you know what? Gentrification is but a symptom of something that is much greater. So I want to thank Robby Caban for introducing us to this particular topic with Mr. Kamau. So Robby, why don't you bring us in and tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we're going to move on from there.
Well, my name is Robby. I've been on your show before, Egberto, with much gratitude. I am a licensed agent in Atlanta, Georgia, and as a licensed agent, I have access to systems and information. I hope and I strive to be a responsible agent. As an agent, we're supposed to build communities in a healthy, prosperous way. And I came across the fellow who is on with us today. I'm very grateful about this, Mr. Kamau Franklin. He is in ground zero for gentrification in Atlanta, in Pittsburgh, the heart of Pittsburgh. He's going to give some background on the community of Pittsburgh and why it's so special. It's almost like the South Bronx to me, where I grew up. But really, in terms of Kamau and gentrification in Atlanta, there's so many people who are thriving off of what's happening and making profit off of what's happening. And the difference that I see with the community movement builders and Kamau, people have asked me about this, is that they're sincere in who they want to help, who they want to support, who they want to empower, which is the long-term residents of Pittsburgh. And I believe that there's an honesty here in this organization that I'm very grateful that you're showcasing. Kamau.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being on. So background, my name is Kamau Franklin. I'm a longtime community organizer, originally from New York, also formerly a practicing attorney. I started community movement builders in Atlanta, but we now have chapters in Detroit and in Dallas and soon to be San Diego. Our main function as an organizing group is the fight against gentrification in Southwest Atlanta, particularly in a neighborhood that's known as Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a historically Black community. It was started in 1883 or created in 1883 by formerly enslaved Africans who settled that area to actually escape from white supremacy violence that was happening in other places in other areas of Atlanta. So this community was settled by a black population. It's been a working class and middle class Black population for the last 100 and so years. And now it's being threatened by the issue of gentrification, i.e. folks who are higher income white, seeing and targeting a neighborhood, developers, real estate developers, city elected officials, targeting a particular area for higher priced properties that move out communities that have been there again, for literally hundreds of years. And the thing about this gentrification problem is that it's not just Atlanta, it's happening everywhere across the country. So where I'm originally from, Brooklyn, New York, it's happening there. It's happening in Oakland. It's happening in what's left of any Black community or brown community in San Francisco. So it's happening across the country. I think there's particulars about Atlanta that speak to why it's happening there, but I think there's a general format about how this gentrification takes place across the country that we should discuss more.
Now, you said that you think there's some specific causality. I want to jump into that right away. Tell me what you think.
Well, I think some of the causality, particularly as it comes to Atlanta, is that you've got a Black professional and Black political elite mainly that is teamed up with a white economic elite to decide how development gets done in Atlanta. And that development is for the furtherance of corporations, big business, rich people, upper middle class people at the expense of poor people, working class people, i.e., mostly Black people in Atlanta. So I think although Atlanta has this reputation of being the Black Mecca, which is something that's publicized, again, by elected officials and well-off Black people, on the ground, what you see is a city that has some of the worst income disparity rates in the country, worst social mobility rates across the country, and a city that was once well over 59, 60, 61% Black, that is now barely 50 to 51% Black. And this has all happened under the leadership control, again, of Black elected officials, Democratic Black elected officials who purport themselves to be progressives and liberals, but who really side with bigger investors and developers to decide how development happens on the ground. So I think that some of that is unique to Atlanta, but again, most of the major cities where there are large Black populations, what you have is liberal Democratic leadership who are great on national progressive issues, but can't seem to get beyond the idea of saying no to big developers, no big stadiums, no big box stores. Instead, they say yes, yes, yes to every tax break that these folks want. And they spur this gentrification from happening and then claim that it's a big surprise when there's no low income housing or even moderate income housing for people to live in.
That is amazing. I mean, I find it. You brought up the thing about liberal progressives, etc. I've already found in many of the activities that I'm in throughout the country that many times the elite liberals and the elite progressives are no different than the other side that we talk about. And in fact, what I have spoken about many a times is the establishment being one and in the same, whether it's a Republican establishment or a Democratic establishment. Now, Robby, there's one thing interesting, and that is I've kind of given you your own moniker. I've called you the activist agent, the activist real estate agent, because a lot of these stories that you bring into the fold are things that it's generally taboo for a real estate agent to talk about or to bring into the fold. I mean, you brought some stories with respect to the person who created the studio. I forgot his name now. Yes. Okay, and you brought his story to the fold. Tell us a little bit about how that ties into what Kamau is talking about.
Well, I mean, I apologize because I literally listened to Kamau and I felt like an overwhelming emotion just in listening to him. And I think that that's some of why this is so hard for people to get involved in, because it's very, very difficult. It's very heavy if you really contemplate what's happening to people. One, I want to acknowledge everything Kamau said is accurate. I'm a witness to it. I have lived in this community for over a decade. I'm from the South Bronx, and it's particularly unusual in Atlanta, where it actually happened in the South Bronx as I was growing up. But it's really unusual in Atlanta. It's very confusing because we have Black leadership, in the city. And so that throws a whole nother dynamic that it's difficult for people to process, because who you think you can trust is confusing. It is. It's very confusing, and it's really honestly heartbreaking, to be plain about it, because you want to form an alliance and you want to think the best of people, no matter who they are. But even the nicest of people, nicest, and I say that in quotations, because the systemic consequences is not about niceties. It's about the systemics, the systems that are at work that people engage in ignorantly. And I use that word as best as I can. But he's 100% accurate. It is a huge mistake for the taxpayers of Atlanta. I'm a real estate agent. We are whitewashing these communities that is doing nothing for the tax base. It's a short-term vision. If we didn't do what we're doing now, we would actually be more lucrative on a global scale. We don't have to do this at all. It's a mistake. It's a huge mistake. And we are paying quadruple, 5 times in later consequences in terms of affordability, subsidizing developers, a homelessness crisis, the rise in crime on gentrification. I mean, literally, the down payment assistance programs. This is all avoidable. It almost seems like, to Kamal's point, the city elected officials think that the only way traditional planning is to monetize on residential housing to generate tax revenue. And that is not so. We can generate tax revenue from commercial real estate, and that's literally non-existent. And the formula to do that in divested areas is very different in planning. But the problem is that the people in planning and the people who planning listens to know nothing about divested areas. And in Atlanta in particular, with the system that we have with the former Mayor Jackson, our former mayor, relatives live very, very well today, which is very confusing for white people when we discuss reparations. His vision on the NPU system, the neighborhood planning unit, was to have true community engagement. But that system that he envisioned and created, similarly to MLK, has been forgive me, bastardized. It's been, jeopardized. It's been compromised. And it's been compromised at the basic level by allowing these monetary groups to be charged at the neighborhood association level, which that agenda trickles to the NPU level, which goes to planning, which goes to City Hall, which becomes our policy. And, to your point, Egberto, and I'm tying this all together as a movement, we have covenants, we have a whole ethics proclamation and so on that we're supposed to follow to build communities. I'm not supposed to personally benefit from having a license and access to these systems. I'm supposed to help the general public and have an integrity in my work. And I equate it to MLK's work when the late Dr. King was talking about America and America holding up to the truth that we claim and being honest about it. If all men are created equal, then that should reflect in our systems. And when we talk about agents, and ethics and agents building communities, then I'm not here to, make money for myself. I'm here to help build equity for everyone and help correct things that are not, doing that. And that's why I'm in alliance and supportive.
Let me say something, because I want to unpack something that you said. I mean, because a lot of these issues, we bring race into it. We bring all these different things into it. And what I think there's something that we preach on Politics Done Right, mostly that it's really, in fact, I have a book called As I See It, Class, where is it? As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Because race is a tool to allow a few to get rich. And you've alluded to reparations, and people see Maynard Jackson and how his family lives, and they say, what about reparations? What about gentrification? Why is all these things harmful? Look at how Kamau is living. Look at how these other folks are living. They don't quite understand that, in effect, race is just a tool to be able to, a tool of an underclass right now to be able to take things away with folks who are not going to go into the courthouse to fight for it, or don't have anybody on their side. And of course, Kamau, I guess you're the person, or yours or the organization, that has the side of the people who need it.
Yeah, I mean, what we do in Southwest Atlanta, and we do in some of the other places where we have chapters, is that we try to organize on the ground, particularly with Black communities, to help support them in their fight to save their communities. Our role is to bring tactical support, to bring some resources to bear, There being strategies that we've tried in the past, but really what we're trying to do is to help support that community as it organizes against the wave of gentrification. And you're right. I mean, these communities are for the most part poor, Black and brown communities that don't have access to the resources that other communities do, particularly a development class, a political class that makes decisions day after day, passes resolutions, laws, codes, and so forth, and everybody else is playing catch up. So we have to be there on the ground to provide some of the research necessary so that we can catch up before they get to do what they want to do. So a lot of these elected officials, even the ones who believe that they are progressive or they came into office to do good things, they fastly fall into the dangerous channel of working with folks who have means, right? Who have resources, who bring them into parties and meetings and boardrooms that they themselves have never been in before, and they get seduced by that. And so they get seduced by the language of what's considered success in America, which is establishing a big business. And anything shiny and big seems to be the very meaning of success, as opposed to a working class community doesn't need a brand new stadium to make it better, right? It may need a cooperative grocery store, right? It may need obviously
Right.
better schools. It needs parks which are accessible for those folks, but not necessarily dog parks, which are meant for other people to come in and be a trailblazer for other groups to come in. It doesn't need fancy coffee shops. It may need cleaners. It may need bodegas. It may need other stores that are accessible and what the community actually wants. So if folks were interested in providing these things or finding channels to do these things, they could. They could go to do things like cooperative housing or land trust. Cooperative grocery stores or land trust housing, which would bring down the value of residential housing and make it permanently affordable for people. But instead, they go to the highest bidder. They believe that whatever developers say that they're going to do to transform a neighborhood is going to be good for that neighborhood. But transforming a neighborhood that moves the original group out of that neighborhood and moves in new people is not making that neighborhood better. It's basically ethnic cleansing.
I mean, what you are saying is so prescient. Let me tell you a little quick story. There's one particular program I had about our economic system being a fraud on most people. And I got really hit for that. And then they said, look at downtown Houston, Texas, one of the most beautiful skylines there is. I mean, it's beautiful, tall buildings, great freeways, everything. And my next question to the person that converted him on the instant was, and how much of that can you use? How much of that can you enter? And you've just made a present point when you said instead of building bodegas and maybe a washateria in close proximity, maybe a grocery store that's economical, we bring a high-priced coffee shop, and in gentrifying and increasing the prices, the people that are there, wow, the neighborhood looks great, but nobody that's originally there can do a damn thing with it. What's the point then? And that is the hardest thing that we have to teach people where it comes to gentrification. Somebody rides into that new town and said, but look how it has changed. Look how beautiful it looks. And then you say, well, the people that were there can't use any of it, or they're no longer there. Now, Robby, you took me through we do all these video things, and Robby is a great activist, real estate person with her camera doing things real time. You took us through a neighborhood. And I'm going to tell you, we didn't talk about this when you did that tape, but the striking thing to me was all the people that you were talking to, they were resolved to what was happening, and they seemed to have no fight. My expectation is that what Kamau is doing is going to put some fight into them, but is that what you normally see throughout?
No, and that's a reason why I'm very, very grateful that you provided this opportunity and that Kamau made the time to come on and discuss his work, his organization's work, because they have really put their, for lack of a better word, money where their mouth is. They have purchased, they've purchased property in Pittsburgh. They have yes, they have their headquarters in Pittsburgh. Kamau's organization is rooted in Pittsburgh. He has open houses that are open to the public, and that's huge because the communities that have moved in, that have kind of taken over, it's almost like a mini war happening right now in Southwest Atlanta. And these people are quote unquote well-intentioned, and God forgive me for saying they're ignorant beyond. And so they have the best intentions, but their actions are horrific. Like their collective actions are just horrific. Like even the charging of monetary dues. So the people who are long-term residents, they're not online sometimes. They're going. The fact that Canal even had an open forum and that people could show up and listen in real time and it wasn't online was huge. The fact that there's actually a land that has a farm on it, a community garden that people can see, and that there's a mural on the wall with Black faces is huge. Because these people that have moved in, they have a skill set, they're coming from generational wealth off of real estate, using Nextdoor, using programs like Slack, using their connections, using their resources at jobs. And that is not available to the long-term residents at all. So it is not an equitable playing field at all. And the long-term residents often become completely attacked and ostracized on these platforms that have huge money behind them, like Nextdoor and Facebook. And no one's regulating it.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, because what I want to do first of all is lift what you are doing up in whatever channels we have. So what I'd like to ask you, Kamau, is tell us a little bit about the foundation of your organization, who your organization is, how people can reach it. Is it a 501c3 that can take donations, that sort of thing, and how can you be connected not to 3 or 4 cities, but to cities throughout the country that's getting gentrified?
Yeah. So again, the name of our organization is called Community Movement Builders. Our website is communitymovementbuilders.org. We have a Facebook page by the same name, a Twitter account, and Instagram by the same name. We are a 501c3 organization. So yes, we accept donations. It's our lifeblood, of course. We have dues. We have some small grants. And I want to thank Robby and you for allowing me to be on this platform, because one of the things that we need to make sure that people do see the work that we do is that visibility. Because again, we are a small resource organization, but what we've done with those resources, as Robby mentioned, is that we purchased a house in the neighborhood that we wanted to work in, where we provide a childcare co-op space for a childcare cooperative, office space for another organization that does grassroots organizing to work out of. We provide housing for an urban farmer who, in exchange for a low rent, works on our urban garden, which is right next door to us. We actually have a plot right across the street that we're also going to garden on until we raise enough resources to build a second house on. We have a community stabilization fund in which we give grants to people in the neighborhood to help them with their mortgages, with their rents, with utility bills, with code violations. And we do that organizing work where we have petitions, yard signs that are saying stop gentrification. And all of that is to do the policy work necessary to organize folks to get out into the street and challenge their elected officials, challenge the policies, create alternative institutions so that we can figure out ways to fight to have control over that neighborhood. So one of the things that's really important that people don't like to talk about is that there has to be a level of political education that so people feel like they can fight for their communities, that they actually feel like they do have some ownership and they're not just visitors in the places that they live, or that they can't just be pushed out in a moment's notice. They have to believe that they have some ownership rights, some interest, and believe that they have the opportunities to fight for that. And so I think it's groups like ours that try to be on the ground to push that work forward. And so, it's great for us. And I agree, we want to start chapters all across the country. We want to be a movement that fights against gentrification, that fights for Black sustainability, that fights for community organizing, that fights for our rights to be a group that can have some collective ownership of wealth to protect our interests. And that's why we built our organization.
Come out, there are so many organizations out there that elitist organization, I call them, and I really have to do that they talk a good talk, but they're not working with the people. You would not imagine how impressed I am that we have a group that I've been introduced to, a group that's on the ground, that's making a difference personally with different people within the community. So thank you for what you do. And Robby, I'd like to ask you to bring us on home. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing Kamau into the fold, into the politics done right fold, because like I said, I'm impressed beyond being impressed. So thank you for bringing Kamau and his organization to the fold. So bring us home.
I just want to say that Kamau and his organization are one of the few people that, I mean, what we reviewed, even just having a home base in Pittsburgh, the mural is beautiful, the community garden is beautiful. He has had open forums, and he's one of the few leaders that have openly and publicly said we need to challenge the current elected officials who are not serving the public. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. And I've been around for over a decade. And so I had to ask you, Egberto, and I had to be grateful that he's here, and I had to be thankful because the people in Pittsburgh deserve it. And what's happening, to those people throughout Southwest Atlanta, throughout the South Side, throughout the country, is a disservice and an injustice to us all. We all have an ancestry, and we're all kind of tied together. It doesn't take anything, and I guess that's what I want to focus on, like. What I want to say in terms of, it doesn't take anything from us who may not be classified as Black to support Black empowerment. We actually are doing harm to us all by not supporting it. And so let's get there. Let's get beyond there, and let's get together and do the work. Let's support these organizations. That's what we need to do.
Kamau Franklin and Robby Caban, thank you so kindly for having been part of Politics Done Right. And till we meet again, which we are sure to do in the very near future, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you so much.
Well, folks, that was our topic on gentrification. I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to call in, please feel free to give us a call at our number 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Welcome aboard Kathleen Morgan, Ivan Verdant, Ivan Verdant, I think is the name, Bruce Davis, welcome, and of course my buddy Daniel Ledo with Mr. Frank, and he has, well, Daniel, when I want to get the immediate negative input, I know it's going to come from Daniel. He says, if Mr. Franklin wants to assist Black community, he needs to help fix Black culture. I don't exactly know what that means, Daniel. Maybe you want to enlighten me on how he needs to fix Black culture. Maybe I think you need to learn, first of all, that Black culture is not a monolith. And secondly, I am not sure what you mean by fix Black culture. It seems that you are falling into the same disease that many a white supremacist have by trying to put everything into one game, or allowing that culture as some kind of culture that is placed in the masses to put out there to define who Black folks are. Again, if you were genuine, I think any genuine person would try to learn what that culture is, because first of all, it's not a monolith, and secondly, there's a hell of a lot. Well, anyway, maybe you should explain what you mean by that statement, because that statement doesn't do well for your humanity in the least. Actually, it makes you kind of subhuman. One who makes a statement like that can only have subhuman tendencies. Okay, let's go to the subjects that we're going to be talking about. Additionally, do you know why Donald Trump polls are not really moving down as much as they do? And I wish, okay, let me first tell you the several topics we're going to discuss. We just discussed gentrification. The other topic that I want to discuss is specifically why Donald Trump polls are not moving. Bloomberg $30 million ad buy and coming into the fold as far as coming into the race. Jeff Bezos donates $98.5 million, and people are going crazy. He did a great thing. Of course, not really. Media not covering the news. That there's some of that inside of my piece. So please notice that. Of course, likewise, we have Working Families Party disenfranchisement. Free stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot that I want to talk about in the next 20 minutes or so. Of course, you can change the gist of the conversation if you decide that you want to call. 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Topic numero uno, or numero cero is what I call it, zero, topic zero. Why Donald Trump polls are not moving. I hope more of the Democratic establishment understood this, but then again, I started to think, and I know that they understand it perfectly. Let's see there. Oh, folks, if you're on YouTube, do know that we're now taking super chats. Take a look at super chat and see if you want to super chat the program on that whenever you get a chance. Okay, let's continue. Why Donald Trump polls are not moving. Donald Trump polls are not moving mainly because there is a complete infrastructure that the left has not developed. Donald Trump, because of the way I do my social media, I get much from the progressive side as well as from the conservative side. And what you find is the conservative engine is all over the place. I want people to stop talking about Russian bots as if you give the Russians too much credit for what's going on here. All it really takes is good marketing. And a few weeks ago, I played a thing by one of the marketing guys that's always on Donnie Douch or whatever his name is on Morning Joe. He came and he gave sort of some marching orders. I don't like the guy because this is the guy who said, "Oh, if Donald Trump wins," initially he said he would vote for Trump again, or you'll vote for Trump if Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren were to win. Sort of crazy, but that's what he said, and that's what a lot of rich, purported progressive believe, because they think, "Oh, you're coming for my money," and it's the pathology of wealth. I hope it doesn't change it. Well, I know it doesn't change everybody, because there's Nick Nahauser, and there's also a couple others that they were never bitten by, in as much as they're billionaires, they were never bitten by the evil that some of these guys are bitten by. But anyhow, these guys are investing. The right is investing in everybody. They're investing in black bloggers that share nothing in common with the black community. Example, Candace Owen and others that simply are there to make a dollar, right? If you take a look at what she's doing, she knows what she's doing is not right. She knows it. She has to know that. So it's my most sincere opinion that she's a very, very smart person. And she's taking advantage of what it means for somebody like her to support a Trump who is a clear and present danger to a whole lot of people. And I don't only mean black people or people of color. I mean my white Appalachian brothers and sisters as well. He's a clear and present danger. Well, what I try to tell folks in an article that I wrote recently is I said the people that should fear Trump the most are not black people, are not people of color. Those are not the people that should fear Trump the most. The people that should fear Trump the most are white, poor people. White people who live in distressed areas. Those are the people who Trump is really destroying. Let's give an example. I don't just say things, right? We know that neighborhoods where people of color are the majority, that is a lot of times where people put the dumps. That's where people put all the things that folks don't want in their neighborhood. NIMBY, right? But guess what Trump did when he started to reduce regulations? Appalachia, a lot of coal in those areas, right? And what he said is, at first there were regulations to make sure that all those coal mines and those power plants that burn coal had to keep their ashes under control and prevent them from seeping into the groundwater, prevent them from seeping into the streams, etc. Well, Trump says, you know what? New regulation for corporations. You can dump your ash in the streams. So the people that are going to get polluted with mercury poisoning, with cancer-causing heavy metals, or people in Appalachia. A big part of his base. So all the other bad things that he's going to do to society, it's already been done to people of color and to poor people elsewhere. Now he's doing it to his base. But nobody covers it that way, right? If you look at the mainstream media doesn't say, hey, West Virginians, you see those coal stands that you have there? We are now going to allow mercury to lie in those places, and those are the places that you're going to be in. Let's go a little bit further. All the fish and so forth that we used to protect, forget it now. You can eat crap. You know why? Because those wealthy people, they buy their organic stuff. Richard Wolff said it best. They can go buy their organic wolf and their organic everything while you eat the crap that everybody else has to produce. So, Donald Trump polls are not moving because the right invests in fooling its people. It invests in lying to its people. It invests in twisting the truth. It invests in all those things. All the people on the left need to do is invest in people who tell the truth and flood the market with truth. Flood the internet with truth. Flood the YouTube sphere with truth. But the investment is not there. You know why? Because they don't want too much truth. They want a balance between the people on the two sides, because they don't really want true, full, progressive values out. Why don't they want that? Because you know what? All those people that, when you hear a lot of conservatives talk about Soros, the billionaires on the left want some progressiveness, but not the full thing. They don't want the full thing at all either. So progressives are fighting a middle class and a poor fight on their own. And we have to stick together, fund ourselves together to get things done, because the top on both sides are the enemy. Now, Bloomberg, $30 million ad buy. Can that work? I am going to ask everybody to make sure everybody out there disregard commercial ads on TV. Disregard them. No longer should you watch mainstream media, see the ads, and think the ads have any truth to them. Yes, some will have truth, but err on the side of you being lied to. And the reason you have to do that, and then come to programs like Politics Done Right and others for real data, for real information. Why am I saying that? We have good people running for the presidency right now. We have Bernie Sanders, whose policies are definitely great for 90-odd% of Americans. And we have Elizabeth Warren's policies, who are best for 90-odd% of Americans. There's no doubt about that. If you do the numbers, you'll see that these people would do better. But the purpose that Bloomberg said he's coming into the fold is because he doesn't see anybody running who can beat Donald Trump. Okay? He sees nobody who can beat Donald Trump, in as much as these people are promoting the values that Americans say they want. They are not going to say they're liberals. They're not going to say they're progressives, but they are going to say, I want child care so that I can go to work. I want full medical care so that I don't go bankrupt when I'm ill or sick or whatever. I want to be able to buy a home. I don't want to be indebted to a bank for student loans that I had to get because corporations didn't want to pay taxes for to educate the people who ultimately come and work for them and enrich their stockholders. No, I don't want to do that. So all these policies that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders stand for are things Americans want. Are things Americans want. You poll them, they poll saying we want it. So Bloomberg doesn't want to pay a 2% tax, or in the case of Bernie Sanders, maybe a 6% wealth tax. Here's the deal. You have wealth sitting in the bank, and your wealth is growing at anywhere from 6 to 12%. and for doing nothing. It's called passive income, right? And Elizabeth Warren says, you know what? Passive income tax that, okay, we're going to start taxing it at 2% per year. Everybody screams, oh, you're going to take 2% a year. I can't believe that. But at the same time, you own a home. Who complains about having my home is going to cost me several $1,000s in December to pay the taxes on this home? And that applies to everybody in Houston. Everybody in the United States of America who has not a mortgage, but who has a home, right? You have a car. Every year you pay something called a tax. Those are your assets. While Bezos may have stocks and bonds, you have a car and a home, and all your assets, your wealth are locked up in those pieces of property. You don't see anybody saying, oh, let's not tax those anymore, but Bloomberg doesn't want a wealth tax on all the other farms that he has and assets. We have to understand how these people are fooling us. We can't fall for the crap. A wealth tax is important. To put it bluntly, the wealth tax should be a whole lot higher than 2%. But if you take a look at what 2%, the extraordinarily huge amount of wealth that is owned by so very little amount of people, number of people. If you look at that wealth, 2% gives you so much. If I were those people, when Elizabeth Warren says 2% tax, they should all jump and say, oh, we're going to support her because Bernie wants 6%. Even that is too little. And you know why it's too little? Because these people didn't make that money on their own. You know why it's too little? Because it's money, that wealth that they have is money not having been paid to their employees. That wealth that they have is money that all of us in the, Bezos, I always use the Bezos examples for those people who have not heard my show before. Bezos with Amazon patented one click. So nobody could develop an application with that one click functionality that Amazon had in its website. And I had a product called One Click. It wasn't called One Click, but it was using the same, it was going to operate the same way. I couldn't use it because he had a patent on it, so I developed some other software, other communication software. But the idea is that we have a system that is geared to help just a few. It's geared only so a few can succeed, and so that for most people, you have to be invited to succeed. It's not a meritocracy. Yes, you can open your bread shop, you can open a lot of these little things, and you will grow if and only if you are offered the opportunity to grow. Example, Facebook. You say, well, look, he went ahead and did it all on his own. No, he did not. He was offered the opportunity to capitalize from venture capital to turn Facebook into what it was. He was chosen. Same thing with Bill Gates. Bill Gates ran and he went ahead and he got PC DOS from a Seattle company. He didn't invent this. Somebody else invented this stuff. So he went and he got it. He made a deal with IBM, signed a contract, and then later on, other people says, okay, let's see, eeny, miny, miny, mo, Apple, CPM, are we going to go with MS-DOS? Are we going to go with CPM? Are we going to go with Argo? All these other systems are out there. Okay, we choose MS-DOS. Was MS-DOS the best? No. In fact, because MS-DOS was not the best, because MS-DOS was as lousy as it was, it gave companies like Willie's Computer Software Company, my company, the ability to write software to improve on that particular product. Look it up. I mean, like I tell people, my life is an open book. You can see the different pieces of software that enhanced it, etc., etc., etc. So, no, you have to be invited to success. It's not a meritocracy. All right, Jeff Bezos donated $98.5 billion. $98.5 billion. He wants a pat on his back to 32 different organizations, right? Well, I don't want philanthropists out there donating money to people. I want them to pay their darn employees. I don't want donations. I don't want, what is the word that I want to say? I don't want gifts, right? Let's have a transaction, okay? When politics done right goes out there and says, please contribute to politics done right. We are saying contribute to us for what we do. Right? So Daniel Lado, you are going crazy with writing. I'm going to answer all your questions because it just shows a lot that you kind of don't know. But that's all right. I'll educate you when I'm done here. Media not covering news. The article, I can't go over that because I don't have a lot of time. I can't read the article that I want to read to you. But the basics is this. Our mainstream media is failing again. And what are they doing? They're covering every tweet that Donald Trump writes, every little thing that he does, they're covering it. That is one of the reasons I was saying let's forget about impeachment. Let those congresspeople worry about impeachment, but let's us all, the rest of us, talk what are we going to do for the middle class? What are we going to do for the poor? What are we going to do to make things better for these people? Because right now, if you take a look at what's going on, that's all the mainstream media is talking about. Impeachment, did they tell you that the Working Families Party in New York is being disenfranchised by the Democratic Party in New York? Did they tell you that a law was just passed, I think it was yesterday or today, I'm not sure which one, a law was just passed to tell the Workers' Families Party that you have to, I think you have to raise 5 times the amount of people that you had before to be placed on the ballot. So fusion voting is at risk in New York. And one of the reasons why is the Working Families Party put up the girl from Sex and the City to run against the mayor. I interviewed her at Netroots, Cynthia Nixon. I interviewed her at Netroots Nation 2017, I believe, or 2018, I believe. But anyway, that's what it's all about, right? He's running, and he doesn't want the Workers' Families Party to put somebody to primary him or put somebody up as the Working Party's family. So what he does is he allows the Working Families Party to have to do more to qualify for the vote. So you see, it's coming. Remember what I told you, it's progressives get hit from all sides because progressives want what's best for the people, and wanting what's best for the people also means you won't allow the wealthy, you won't allow the charlatanes to rip everybody else off. That's what it means. We won't allow people to rip others off. That is what we're talking about. Our current economic system is built on people screwing other people. You know, from the time it started with with the inception of the country and slavery, all the way up to its quasi-indentured servitude of the early 1900s until now, where we have it every iteration, we are able to get it a little bit more antiseptic so that it doesn't look as evil as it is, right? I had a video to show about Amy Klobuchar and free stuff and all of that, but I'm going to let that slide because I played that last week. But anyhow, let me go ahead and go to Daniel Lado before it gets too late. Daniel Lado says, how do you know if someone is demonizing another? When they purport to know the motivations of that person and cannot provide proof of their slander. I know the motivation of that person. The person is quite obvious. Reductio al absurdum. Look it up. Reductio al absurdum. Look it up. Daniel Lado also says the full thing, translation, full government control. No, I don't want full government control. I believe in free enterprise. The people who believe in full government control are fascist capitalists. That's who believe in full government control. That is why the laws are written to protect corporations. That's why corporations are considered people. They're considered strong people because you have the corporation who is a person now who can donate unlimited amount of monies to politicians, which means now they run the politicians. That's full government control. You see, we have it all wrong. The problem is our narrative has always been wrong. We have made the belief that there's government control. There's not government control, there's corporate control. Because if the corporation controls the government and then the government controls everything else, ultimately you go to the master, the corporation. So please get the numbers, get it right. Now Daniel also, I laugh when I hear crazy people spewing nonsense. Everything that I've said here today, absolutely everything that I've said here today can be backed qualitatively and quantitatively. No doubt. Absolutely everything that I've said can be backed up quantitatively and qualitatively. So, sir, you're wrong on that point. And Daniel Ledo, last statement he makes, I imagine he's ran out of negative statements. So are you saying Bill Gates is a job, so you are saying Bill Gates is a job creator? Of course Bill Gates is a job creator. You are a job creator, Ledo. If you spent $1, you're a job creator. Because when you spent that dollar had to go back into the economy to replace what you purchased, and somebody got a job out of that. You see, the thing about it is we have a tendency to apply job creation to the CEO or the investor or something like that. The job creator is all of us that makes the economy flow, that makes the economy run. The problem is we've taught ourselves to diminish our value to society as we have elevated the value of those who are of less value than we give them value for. And when we learn to accept our worth, when we learn to accept our real worth, then things will be better. We're coming close to the end of the show, and I want to thank my patrons, those people who donate and contribute to the show, and want to encourage others to do so. So without further ado, I want to play my thank you message. Here we go. Patrons and prospective patrons, thank you for your support of independent media. Why is it crucial? We are not dependent on the whims of those who advertise on the platforms we use to bring you news, truths, opinions, and empowerment. We ensure that all of those who must have a voice, whose voices have been silenced or ignored, are heard. Those who have messages and narratives to better us all have a place and an outlet to do so. With all the misinformation out there, our platforms give you power. You are integrated into a network where no one has a monopoly of ideas. Remember, Politics Done Right is yours, and you can be a part on the scene or behind the scenes. Thank you for supporting Politics Done Right and our corresponding websites, newsletters, and outlets. Thank you. Okay, folks. So I hope you all become either contributors, subscribers, or whatever to ensure that we can continue to tell the truth, that we can continue to be patrons. Bruce Davis says, how much does it cost to be a patron? Anywhere from $1.99 a month all the way up to whatever you want to provide. But we try to give you goodies as well, and we try to have perks for you as well. So what I'm going to do right now is put the address of, I think I can still spell, the address of the link that you can become a patron. And please consider being, I think I got that right. Please consider being a patron, because let me tell you, what we do is not only what you call a keyboard warrior. We don't just stay behind the keyboards. We are out there in the field talking to people. We're out there trying our best to make a difference. We're out there trying our best to tell the truth, because unless the truth is told, we will continue to vote against our own interests. Unless the truth is told, this country's demise into, or this decline into indentured servitude for most is perfectly on hand. But anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.